One of my readers requested a template for this onesie card that I made a while back. So today's tutorial shows you how to make this template and construct this card. To begin, I'm working with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock to make the template. I measure, and of course these lines I've made with a pen so that you can see them, but for what you are doing I would work very lightly with a pencil. I measure the center line to give myself some reference. Then from the top of the cardstock, using this see-through ruler, it's very easy to line up 1 3/4 inches from the top and draw a line across, and then you measure 1/2 inch and make a dot from each side. Because I want the bottom to be absolutely symmetrical, I'm going to use a piece of paper to make a template for the leg openings. This is a scrap of regular copy paper that is 4 1/4 inches wide. I folded it in half, and then I used a die to position a shape that I found pleasing. I like for my onesies to be straighter edged at the bottom and a little curvy toward the top, and that's why I like using an oval instead of a circle. So here is my template, and the next step would be to cut the shapes out of the leg openings and the neck opening, and then with scissors trim the sides. And here is what it looks like when you've finished. On this particular one I actually used a little bit deeper of a neck opening. So the next step now is to trace your template onto your card front. If you like, you can construct a card using patterned paper instead of a textured card base. And if you choose to use patterned paper, this would be the time that you run a line of glue along the edges just inside your markings, adhere your patterned paper to the front, and then go to the die cutting machine to make your cuts. That way all of your edges will be perfectly flush and none of your patterned paper will show when the card is opened. If you choose to use the card base and a texture folder, this would be the time that you insert it into the embossing folder and run it through the machine. So now we have the textured card front ready to be embellished. When I made my original card, I used a circle punch because that's what I had to make these decorations around the leg openings. But it kind of bothered me. I guess I'm really a symmetrical person. It bothered me a little bit that the edges were narrower and the center was wide. Since then, I've gotten lots more toys to play with, and one of the things that I have is a scalloped edged oval nestability die. If you use the scalloped edge and the corresponding smooth edge die together, then you come out with a shape like this. And this is just perfect for using on a onesie card like this. You line up the edges of the shape so that the scallops correspond to the straight lines of your card base. You'll just glue that down and snip the edges. Another alternative that I did on my printed card is to use a piece of ribbon that is elasticized. This looks so much like a real-life onesie. I really like the way it looks, and it's very easy to tape down using a piece of score tape. For the yoke of my card, I'm using a Nestabilities die that is shaped sort of like a sailor's collar, and you can see that I've placed repositionable tape on the die to hold it in place. I'm just using a scrap of cardstock, and I've measured to make sure that it's straight across within the die. Once you pass this through the machine, you can use your template to line up the neck opening and die cut that also. Then if you would like to embellish, you can use a texture strip to place an embellishment right in the center of the yoke. And when you remove it from the machine, you can just use your finger with some pigment-based ink to highlight. In this case, I used white ink for these snowflakes. So then the next thing to do would be to adhere this to the card base, and I like using dimensional adhesive because it makes a nice little shadow underneath. To finish, you can add your ribbon and pearl trim, and if you like, you can add some machine or faux stitching along the edges of the collar before you adhere those. On this little onesie, I also added some teeny tiny buttons because I thought that they might make it look even more like the snap crotch bottom that onesies have. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Of course, if you would like, you can simply download the template, but I really wanted to show you how to make your own because you may not have the same tools that I have. And if you make your own template, then you can make it specifically for the tools you have in your scrap studio. Thanks for watching.